Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're taking a look at Gaming News Consolidated for the week for June 2nd through the 8th. I apologize, I got quite a bit of congestion this morning. Just allergies are just brutal. And I've just always had congestion this year. It's just never gone away. Was sick before that. But anyway, we got quite a bit to talk about. For those of you that like gameplays, hang in there. This week is going to be very busy with showcases. There's a lot to cover. And I think it's important to cover these showcases and also do the news so that we can see what's happening in the gaming industry and make decisions based off of that. So yeah, we'll be talking about Bungie making changes to Marathon. We'll be talking about Black Ops 6. We'll be talking about Take-Two selling a studio, not closing, thankfully selling. We'll also be talking about showcases for this week. We'll also going to talk about it's official that whales have landed in League of Legends, which is just crazy. We got a quick note of God of War Ragnarok on PC. We'll talk about how MultiVerse is doing. We'll talk about some TV shows and movies that are coming that are adaptations, which are just crazy. Talk about the final shape for Destiny 2 that came out. And then we'll talk about what's releasing in June. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Let's go ahead and dig right into it. Okay, so Bungie is changing Marathon. Now, this doesn't necessarily sound good. This was supposed to be like an extraction shooter. And Marathon is... Marathon is... Yeah, oh, excuse me, folks. It's a little early in the morning. Marathon is going to be changing due to their director that they have. So they got a new director at Bungie. And he was someone that was part of the leadership for heading up Valorant. And Marathon is no longer going to be an extraction shooter. It's going to be a hero shooter instead. And I feel like we have a lot of these. We have like Overwatch 2, Valorant, Apex, Rainbow Six Siege, Marvel Rivals. Now we have Concord, with the Sony showcase. And there's a lot of competition now of kind of roughly the same stuff. And like we had... Right, battle royales for a while, and a lot of that was copied and stuff ever since Fortnite, since it was so successful. And now we're having these hero extraction shooters, which I gotta say, probably Rainbow Six Siege is the most popular out of that, and Overwatch was too for a while. But yeah, we're just having this continued consolidation and just focus of just continuing to make the same thing, copying everybody else. And once you copy, it's over, okay? It's not you anymore. It's not you making anything necessary, and then you are completely bound by what your competitor does or your competitors. And to totally come out and make your own thing, like what From Software did with Dark Souls and Elden Ring and Bloodborne, it's totally created a whole new following, and they're the ones being followed now. And they're making so much money to sustain their studio. It's great. And of course, they're not making like all the money, right? Like some of these live services, but they're content enough. They're making plenty for their studio. And that's what the gaming industry should be built on. It should be built on this innovation. It should be built on changes, competition. It shouldn't be this following for stuff, okay? And two, like some companies, they're listening to players, but there's a ton of them that we know of that aren't being followed or listened to at all. Like with Team Fortress 2, Valve still is not fixing that game, even though they still make money from it. And it's a free-to-play game. And a ton of people still play it, too. Tens of thousands a day still play Team Fortress 2. But, like, the devs don't care. Valve wants to work on selling the next big thing because it's supposed to make more money. And, honestly, this trend chasing is frustrating. I'm curious, too, if they're going to make Marathon free. I kind of don't think they will. I think, again, it'll kind of like be the same business model as Destiny 2. Bungie has been making Destiny for like 10 years now, ever since Destiny 1. And I wonder, too, what the campaign is going to be like, but I don't think we're really going to have a campaign. Again, this is a hero shooter. If it's something like Destiny, I would be more interested because there's different things to do. There's raids, there's strikes, there's co-op and PvP and a campaign and just some brain dead shooter elements. It's kind of got like a little bit of everything. They're even adding racing now, I guess, to Destiny, just like Skull and Bones did, and it's just kind of funny, all of these new game modes. But we don't know what the campaign's going to be like. We don't really have any gameplay of Marathon. Like, we don't know any of this stuff. And Marathon 2 has a lot of lore to be able to tell a great story. A lot of it's already out there. Marathon was made in the 90s, for those of you that don't know. And it used to be a Microsoft IP. But, yeah, it's not anymore. It's owned by Sony, and it just sucks that they're gonna, continue to do this kind of like looter, hero, shooter kind of stuff, monetize it to death. If we have any inkling of what's been going on with Destiny 2, which all of that is not just Sony, I think Sony's made it worse, but Bungie was already on their monetization wagon, just to have some of the craziest monetization at the time, even years ago. I think the monetization is going to be insane for Marathon, especially with a hero shooter, okay, because now they can have an easier time selling skins, or the grind can be really long for stuff, and it can just be a total mess. So I'm just not excited for this change for Marathon, because it's not going in the direction that I would enjoy personally. Maybe some of you would, or maybe some of you too would be excited, but I'd be more interested in a story-driven based narrative and gameplay, like Destiny, that works on selling me core elements of the story or characters instead of selling me skins and bundles and stuff. Because there's a reason Destiny lost 45% of its revenue last year. Once it's, less and less, once you lessen it enough, eventually people don't buy it when times are hard. And that's what we're experiencing right now in the gaming industry. So it is a release date for 2025. This is PlayStation 5, Series X, and PC. Bungie has to win with this one, because Destiny 2 is no longer being invested in. And we'll get into that next with the final shape. But again, 45% in 2023 loss of revenue is just way too high, and it's in the contract that with Sony buying Bungie, is that if Bungie doesn't pony up enough money or produce enough revenue over a long enough period of time, Sony can take over and become a part of the board at Bungie and start making the decisions directly. Which, if we look at what Sony's done with their stuff, again, they monetize it to death. They keep running the same IPs. There's really not a lot of innovation there, and it's frustrating. And a lot of fans too, they're not excited for Marathon. A lot of Destiny 2 fans aren't excited. And I really think the final shape is going to be kind of the end for Destiny, and I think that's actually been the plan. I think that's pretty clear now. But let's go ahead and get into Destiny 2. So the final shape launched. Metacritic so far doesn't have an official review score, but the user score is 6.9. If we take a look at, if we take a look at the Xbox Store, it's 3.7 out of 5 now. It was 3.5 out of 5. It's a 3.7 out of 5 now. So it's gone up a couple of tenths. 64% give it a 5 out of 5, and 27% give it a 1 out of 5. So it's pretty polarized. There's really not a lot in the middle. There's like less than 10% in the middle for 2 stars, 3 stars, and 4 stars. But what's been the problem? Well, after even 2 delays, this DLC is not ready. It's already been broken from the start. There's been server issues. There's been cutscenes that don't play. Devs have already been working on these issues. They've already been able to fix some of these, and they're continuing to work on it to make sure that it runs smooth. But I just think for the most part, the day of just things launching well, without major glitches and without major bugs and broken servers, I think those days are gone. I really do. Until we change how we build things and the infrastructure for servers, and just the way we quality test today is just horrible. And I think all of the major games are examples of that today. Players do really seem to enjoy the main campaign. They're enjoying the new enemies, though they're kind of like reskins a little bit. And then the soundtrack's really good. The visuals are really good, and they're enjoying the new region with being able to explore inside the Traveler and stuff. And so some do see the campaign though as a copy of like the vanilla start of Destiny 2. And so for quite a few people that have been with Destiny for 10 years now, the expansion still feels like it's lacking, and that it hasn't added much for the core game. There's not much for weekly stuff either. So there's basically one final mission. There's a raid that I think is started yesterday, the 7th. Yet some feel it won't be enough to be a fitting ending for this 10-year saga of Destiny. And apparently there's still going to be some after Destiny, but we already know that it's more episodic, kind of like seasons, in my opinion, and that there's no more expansions, there's no more big pushes for story. This is going to be it. So there's going to be 3 episodes, which is Echoes, Revenant, and Heresy. Each episode will have 3 acts, so there's 9 acts total. And each act will be put out in 6 weeks. And 6 weeks kind of seems to be the big term, regardless of what game you look at. There's always updates, or there's always seasons or whatever after about 6 weeks of gameplay. And or maybe 2. It can be after a couple of months. That kind of seems to be the general consensus. But these updates or episodes, they're going to have a little bit of stuff for weapons, a little bit of stuff for story, kind of new strikes, new things to do. But the general thing of like new maps for PvP, the new stuff, like I don't think that's going to be a really main core. The thing is just going to be giving enough every 6 weeks to keep people playing for the next year. Because if we do the math, 6 weeks 9 times is 54 weeks, and that's a year. Okay, that's basically a year. We're going to get a year's worth of content, and then there's nothing after that, because it's been made pretty clear that there aren't going to be any expansions. There's no more story progression. The light and dark theme of the whole story is now gone. And so now what? People are still going to play this, but I think a lot of players are going to start to walk away. I don't think either they're going to be very excited about Marathon. Quite a few will probably play it or try it just to see. But, man, and I was one of those players that walked away years ago. I really enjoyed Destiny 1. I enjoyed playing it for those 3 years. I enjoyed Destiny 2 once it was working after launch. And really enjoyed some of the story on that. But I could just see the monetization changing. It's like, I'm not really enjoying this anymore. This is way more grindy than it needs to be. I'm out. And so that was around Iron Banner, when they first introduced that. And I haven't been back since. Maybe once the game has gone on long enough, maybe I would actually go back and start to play it again, since it's free or very, very cheap. Because I would be curious. I'm even curious to go back to like Anthem and actually see what state it's in today. But it's just been so incredibly frustrating for these wonderful games to just shift from story to monetization shopping experience. This digital closet of saving the guns and saving the skins and the emotes and the banners and the stickers, and it's just getting it's dumb. Okay, I don't play games to actually have store stuff in my digital closet. So Bungie's next focus is really going to be Marathon. There's basically going to be 9 seasons left for Destiny 2. And then after that, we really don't know. And I think they'll continue to build content for Destiny 2 minimally compared to what it has been, until just people really aren't playing anymore. It's not really worth the resources. But Marathon's having some issues too. It's already been delayed for a year. It's supposed to come out this year, but that's not happening. Marathon 2 is another live service. We went from extraction shooter to hero shooter, and I don't believe we'll get a Destiny 3 at a minimum of next-gen consoles, if at all. I really don't know if they're going to continue with Destiny 2. There's definitely fatigue there. There is a player base, but it's not a growing one. They haven't done a good job of helping new players come into the space and making it easy enough to integrate in without really pissing off the players that have been doing it forever. So yeah, I don't think we'll get a Destiny 2. I think Marathon has to have some years to run, and yeah, Sony's going to, of course, have their hands in this too, even more so than what Destiny started with. So if we're expecting the same kind of quality as like Destiny with Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to have a new focus. We're going to have a new push. A lot of people, too, in the gaming industry have also retired. We've also had a lot of layoffs and studio closures. And so the IP, a lot of the IPs that I think we know and love, I don't think they're really quite going to be the same, except for those that are in Asian studios. And I think that's because of the demographic. Here in America and Western countries, we have a lot of people retiring right now because of the just the generations and how they're made up and how they're designed. And with over in Asia, they've already had their booms. Their big population growths and stuff, and so they don't have a ton of retirements. They're kind of like on the next wave of growth for some of their countries. But a lot of just a lot of experience has just left the building, and I think that's something we need to recognize. Okay. Black Ops 6. This will be on past-gen consoles. I don't think I covered this last week. This was actually confirmed by a GameStop employee that they have physical games. Excuse me. They have physical games and they have pre-orders and stuff that are for the past-gen PlayStation 4 and Xbox One consoles. And so this was kind of interesting. Much of the player base is actually still on past-gen. So we know that there's about 110 million on PSN and about 120 million on Xbox Network. And we know that the PlayStation 5 has sold about 55 million consoles, and that the the Series X and Series S have sold about 26 million or 28 million. We don't really know the numbers. They quit announcing them because it looks bad, right? Of course, but yeah, you can do the math there. Over 100 million versus console sales for current gen. It's half at best, and the rest are playing on past stuff, or that it's even way worse than that. Like 80% are still playing on older stuff on the Xbox side. So from a business standpoint, it makes sense to have Black Ops 6 actually, be made for past-gen consoles. Because, we know through some stuff that Sony released that half of the PlayStation players on Modern Warfare 3 right now are actually on PlayStation 4. I should say half of the PlayStation players are on PS4, which is crazy. And so, of course, if you see the revenue there, if you see the player base, of course, that's the main focus right now, is expanding the player base. That's why we're seeing exclusives on Xbox now going to other consoles. This is why we see Sony also putting stuff on PC. This is why we see the expansion of Game Pass. Even PlayStation Plus now is going to have a day one release, and so they're going to start following Xbox on that suit, trying to compete with Game Pass. And so I like the competition. We'll see what happens over the years. I think this decade will actually be pretty interesting, but whatever does happen is going to change the industry, and it's going to direct it on a path for quite some time, and hopefully it's one that benefits us, because it'd be nice to be considered again, instead of just microtransaction to death. It is frustrating, though, that we have games that are still made for past gen. Some console or some publishers have said, look, they're not going to be making games for past gen anymore. It's just going to be current gen, PlayStation 5 and Series X. But yeah, when we have past gen being catered to, I will say it that way, and keeping it going really just for revenue, it really, in my opinion, holds back some of the optimization of gameplay or game mechanics even, like split screen. We got to see that with Baldur's Gate. Is that, when you just have worse hardware or weaker hardware, you can only do so much. and we don't have two separate games that are made. They just make a game that's more catered to the past gen stuff, and then it really doesn't make sense to have a current gen console. And I really wonder with the next like PlayStation 6 and whatever the next Xbox is going to be, if people are going to go out and go spend that $500-600 to go get a new console, when with this generation they've shown that it really doesn't make a lot of sense because so many games are still made for past gen stuff, and it's really going to take a lot, in my opinion, to actually push people to get the next gen console that is coming around 2028. Now, with Grand Theft Auto 6, I think a lot of people will buy one at that point, but still, we have until next year. And then, too, with this game services like PlayStation Plus and Premium, and then also Game Pass, that could motivate some people to go to be able to go get those services, maybe, or maybe if there's a bundled service or something. But I think console companies both are going to have trouble being able to sell their next gen console because a lot of people don't have that expendable income right now. We haven't had that expendable income since last year, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. So, we better buckle up, and so we're more restrictive on our spending. We're seeing that in the data too. And if everything is kind of going non-exclusive, the person really eating the best right now is PC, because everything's coming to PC. Literally everything. It's actually also the biggest market. It has the biggest player base of 1 billion players worldwide. I said that correctly, 1 billion. And about 60% of companies said that they're making games for PC, not for consoles. So that's where the publishers are going. That's where the player base is, and I think we'll continue to see that shift with the major companies moving forward. But yeah, Black Ops 6 will be on day one of Game Pass. Some people too, of course, are going to be curious about sub counts. Myself personally, are we going to see sub counts for Game Pass actually go up with Black Ops 6? And if we do, is it going to stay elevated, or is it going to drop back off after like 3 or 4 months when people are done playing the game? But ultimately, there's going to be more players. There's more money to go grab. Yeah, I mean, they're trying to expand to as many players as possible. And like, if you're making Black Ops 6 and you look at PSN numbers and you look at Xbox Network, you have almost 250 million that are sitting there in the console market, and then you still have PC on top of that. And so that I think will continue to be the trend. While some companies and publishers are saying, no, we're not making games for past gen anymore, I think the big dogs are still going to continue to do that with their big titles because that's where the money is. Even Black Ops 6 at some point will be coming to Switch 2.0, the next Switch that we know of. And yeah, it's just all the platforms, right? Xbox really, at this point, wants to make as much money as they can because $69 billion is not cheap. Excuse me, folks. I got to blow my nose here. Okay. So, Take-Two Interactive is selling Private Division. This is a studio that they've had for a while, and it's not being closed, it's being sold. There were talks with Paradox Interactive, but that fell through, and now there's talks with a private firm. Yet we don't know if there's actually going to be considered layoffs yet. We know there won't be a closure, but usually after somebody sells or someone else buys or whatever, there's layoffs coupled with that. We've gotten to see that quite a bit this year already and some of last year. So Take-Two Interactive did buy Gearbox. That was over $400 million. And they also closed Roll7 and Intercept Studios, and now they're selling this one. And so just another example of big companies focusing on big money. And it's tough. If you're not really a part of something big that can really pull in the revenue, and that's what they're chasing is revenue. I think that's more apparent now than ever, is that you can either be sold, have layoffs, and maybe even eventually closures. So your game has got to perform, and I think the devs are now in a tough spot because a lot of the player base, myself included, is not excited about live service. And if that's what the company wants, then that's what's going to be pushed. And so then as a dev, you got to figure out, okay, how can I make it more enticing or more interesting or more fun for the player? And then how can I keep that going every 6 months or every 3 months when we have like a DLC release or whatever? And that's tough. It's hard to keep that performance maxed out and keep it there, like revving an engine to the max. Eventually, the engine is just going to give out, right? It's going to quit and burn out, and I think that's what we're seeing. Live service has had its time in the sun, but something's got to change, or the revenue is going to continue to not flow into a lot of these. And I think that's why we're seeing the remakes and the remasters, and we're seeing old stuff come back. And oh, don't worry, we can bring Cade back, right, in Destiny. And I mean, they're really trying freaking everything they can to continue to get us to spend money. And what they really need to do is they just need to make good games. That's it. Consider us, make what we want, and then sell it to us. Ta-da! That's the business model. Should be. But they're having a hard time figuring that out. Bunch of idiots. Good gravy. Leadership needs to change too at a lot of these companies. Okay, so next is showcases. So we've already had the Sony State of Play, but now we have Summer Game Fest. That video's out. I know it's almost an hour, but there's a lot to chat about there. And then my thoughts also at the end of the video. Link in the description. If I remember, I'll do my best. And then we're also having Xbox today. I will be watching that as well. And then we'll also have PC gaming today, which I won't be watching. And then we'll have Ubisoft tomorrow on the 10th, and I will be watching that. I'll also watch Nintendo Direct, which will be later at the end of the month. So, again, I know there's a lot of showcases. Thank you, too, for those that vote and interact in the channel. I know a lot of you would like to see playthroughs of stuff, but Lion and I did pretty much finish the Ghost Recon Wildlands. We're going to have Elden Ring DLC starting at the end of the month. We'll have a little bit of a gap there, and then we'll continue to pick up after the 4th of July. And yeah, we got more content coming your way. And I'm going to continue to play Tomb Raider. I know that's been slow too. But yeah, after these showcases, we will be getting back to more gameplay, folks, I promise. But with all of these showcases, I do certainly miss E3. Right now, we have too many. And we see them too often. Like Sony, Nintendo, and Xbox. Like, we see them, at least twice a year now. And two, this has got to be getting expensive. And so even taking a look, I thought this was interesting. At Summer Game Fest this year, it cost $250,000 per minute to be showcased on the show, which I think is crazy. That's so much stinking money. Especially for those of you that watched it too, there was an ad at the end that was like 4 minutes. So that was $1 million that they spent right there promoting a game that really wasn't that enticing, and just the ad was quite annoying, so good luck to them. Maybe they just had some money to burn. But, yeah, Summer Game Fest is out, and then Xbox will be today. PlayStation we already had, and Ubisoft will be tomorrow. League of Legends is going to the whales. We now have a skin that's $500,000. It's crazy. I mean, we thought the Unheard edition with Escape from Tarkov was bad. But yeah, $500. Yeah, $500 skin. Did I say 500,000? I didn't mean 500,000. If I did, sorry about that. $500 dollars for the skin. There are other skins that are $300, even as low as $50. But of course, those look like crap. So, yeah, the good-looking stuff, of course, is going to cost more because it's in higher demand, and that's how capitalism works. But I hate it when it's used this way. To be fair, the game is a free-to-play model. I do think there will be more popular models. I do think free-to-play will be a more popular model for games. I think Concord's going to have a rough one with the show that we got to see during the Sony showcase, is because who wants to pay $50 plus for a game where it's copies of something else, and those copies, those other alternatives are free. That's really tough. That's really tough to sell. Like, even though it's not a perfect one-to-one, X-Defiant is free to play while Call of Duty is $70. I just don't get it. Same with like Overwatch 2 is free, while Concord is probably going to be $50 to $70. So companies are trying, but I think they honestly just need to come back to reality, is that people are broke. People don't have the stimulus money from the lockdowns anymore. Okay, we're returning back to normalcy, and $70 for a video game too is just a lot. That's why we see a ton of copies sell with Miles Morales, because that was $50. That had way better sales than Spider-Man 2 did. Even though Spider-Man 2 was a bigger game, maybe more fun or enjoyable or whatever, but people are going to go for the cheaper options, and this is, I think, the benefit that Game Pass has, because you can basically spend, once you take out the multiplayer, you can spend $140 so far. I do think the cost for... that's actually what I'm curious about this week. I think the cost for Game Pass is going to go up to $20 now that they're adding Call of Duty 6, or maybe by the end of this year they'll make the price go up to $20 a month. But so far the service has been pretty good, and now PSN is starting to follow suit on that. They're starting to have the day one releases. We got to see that at Summer Game Fest. But yeah, my concerns really is that I understand that they have to make money, but the microtransactions are getting so out of control expensive. $500. And we've talked about this too on the channel, is that ultimately games will be made for those that have a ton of money and are okay with paying $100 or $500 or even tens of thousands of dollars per skin or whatever to grind up their character, etc. And while the majority of us don't like it, our voices aren't heard because we're not the ones producing the revenue. And a great example of this, I think, would be Star Citizen. That game has made over $700 million since it's been born, and it's still not even a full release. Like, it's just crazy. Like, how many years can you just shell out a few things, make these vehicle and ship packages and sell them for thousands of dollars, and just people are flipping delusional on just, they're cool or they're special or whatever with just buying stuff in a video game. Come on, guys, wake up from reality, please. Like, your real life is out there. Your potential, your future is out there. And you're missing it if you're just staring at screens all the time. Please. Like, it can be so much more. And I want this to be a little harsh to try to hopefully wake some of you guys up. Like, even if you had a life, okay, you can rebuild it. Does it take work? Yeah, sure it does. But I think it can be so much more satisfying if we put in the work to make something good, instead of just, whatevs and just sitting around waiting for stuff to happen. Because if we sit around and wait, well, nothing will happen. And that's pretty consistent. But yeah, I just think it's insane. We got some games now that are just being made for the whales, and the reason I've been concerned with that is because, like, folks like myself and like you guys on the channel, we no longer have a voice because we don't spend enough money. And yeah, it's just great. It sucks. Hopefully more games don't go that way, but again, once you have a consistent player base, like, people are going to continue to spend money on Destiny after the final shape, I'm sure, and that's just going to be, that's just going to be a sinkhole. So a quick note, God of War Ragnarok will need a PSN account at launch for PC. So it is nice that Sony is wanting to bring more exclusives over to PC, and it's really not exclusive anymore. Like I said earlier, PC is eating good, but it will require a PSN account. Even though this is a single-player game, all of that stuff, Sony really just wants to boost their numbers, or don't even think they're trying to hide that anymore. With Helldivers and with Ghost of Tsushima, it's now just very blunt that it's like, look, if you want to play it on PC, you got to have a PSN. And I think eventually down the road we could even see new launchers being made outside of Steam and Epic Store of just like, if you want to play your games, you got to go through this third-party portal from the publisher basically and access that way. Because they would save money that way. It would be pretty expensive to actually come up and continue to maintain their own launcher. But if they do it right in the long run, it would save them money. But yeah, just be aware of that. So, God of War Ragnarok is coming out September of this year. And expect this to be permanent. If it's coming from Sony, expect to have a PSN. I think it sucks. Let's see. Oh, the MultiVerse. Let's talk about the MultiVerse. So this came out, again, this was like we had a beta a little more than a year ago, and right now Metacritic is sitting at a 7.5 out of 10. User score is a 6.0, so relatively close together. It got up to about 110,000 on Steam with the relaunch of this game. Now it's down to 32,000 on Steam. There's still quite a few players on consoles. It's pretty easy and quick to get into match. So there's like no skill-based matchmaking. It's just push players in and, hey, may the best team win. It's nice. There was I did want to clear up something. There was I've seen it a couple of times now, is that talking about how grinding characters is awful, and it is awful. Okay, it is long, but it's not any different than grinding for a 7-month skin on Overwatch 2, or grinding for something else. Okay, like grinding through a gun on X Defiant or Call of Duty. It takes a long flipping time, and that is just how the model is. As MultiVerse also is a free-to-play game, I'm hearing that popular post going around that it takes 38 hours to grind in PvP for one character. And while it is accurate that you can grind in PvP for that long if you wish, you don't have to do it that way. You can grind somewhere between around 5 hours to grind out a character. So I got I'm almost at 15 hours. I'm almost at purchasing my third character so far, so for me it's been roughly taking about 5 hours, but do the dailies, do the logins, do the daily reward missions in the rifts, complete the rifts on different difficulties, and level up your characters that you have available to play, even the ones that are unlocked for a period of time, and you can earn that in-game currency, get your 3,000 fighter points, and then go purchase somebody. Now the Joker is 6,000 so far. He is the only one that costs double of everybody else. But I'm sure there will be future characters coming in development. Also, the Iron Giant is missing. He was too OP and could stun lock everybody, which is horrible, and so he's been removed. He's going to be reworked. And he was actually one of the characters that I bought, and I'm frustrated because there goes 3,000 fighter points that I grinded for. I will if I don't get him back when he comes back, I'll make a petition to the devs and be like, hey, I would like my character back, because since I streamed the game, I have proof that I actually had him unlocked before, and I would like to get him back. So far, personally, my score right now is a 6.5. My biggest issue with the game is how grindy it is. And even though grinding for fighter currency is pretty expensive or time-consuming, even with doing all the dailies and rifts and everything else, 5 hours is still a long time. It's better than 7 months. But like with Overwatch, we were grinding for skins. We weren't necessarily grinding for characters. But what I worry about too is like eventually having to pay outright for characters, because it's really hard to get some of the other currencies in the game, like prestige points and Glimerium. And you need those to actually purchase stuff in the store. Fighter currency is just, hey, you play some and you grind some and you're able to purchase characters. But think of it this way, once you unlock the character, they're permanently unlocked. It's not like you got to regrind or it's going to be reset or whatever. Once you, at least that's what's expected. I should say that. But yeah, once you have locked them, you have them, and that's how I'm seeing it. And it's not just a skin either. There's actually utility to unlocking a character. You get to do something with them. You get to play as them. It's nice. They have different attacks and etc. Right? You can get the skins if you want, but that's not necessary. The main push is, of course, just to get the fighters themselves. I will say, too, that the worst part of the game is the gems. So maybe some of you that have played don't even know what I'm talking about, but there are gems in the game that give you, like, boosts, depending on what rift you're playing. And so there's Chaos, Digital, and Horror, and I'm sure there will be future rifts later, but there's 12 different gems that you can go for. And as you collect repeats, you level up that particular gem. And as you level it up, then you're allowed to be able to get into the kind of next stage of difficulty. And right now I'm grinding for level 4 gems so that I can get to the next level of difficulty, so I can grind more fighter currency, so I can get more fighters. And you can start to see how they're playing this, is that right now I'm actually stuck. And since I can't really earn anything in PvP, which I definitely agree is a problem, they need to be able to give better rewards. But their last update actually started doing that, which is nice. There's a ranking system now in PvP, and if you stay high within that rank, no matter what, you're going to get something, most likely if you play. But yeah, if you stay high within that rank, you actually get some good bonuses and stuff. But it's still not fighter currency. For the most part, it's other stuff. And yeah, while that's frustrating, that's a step in the right direction. But yeah, these gyms really start to become a problem, because if you can't level up your gyms, well, you can't play any of the new difficulties and the new rifts and earn in-game currency to unlock fighters. And that sucks. That's where I'm at right now. I'm stuck. I almost have enough to buy my third one, like I said, and I just need a few more 100, but now I got to rely on just daily logins and daily missions to basically unlock that when those type of missions show up, or unlock characters. Excuse me. Thank you for your patience, folks. Getting through all this is just kind of brutal, but we're almost done. So yeah, personally, I think the game is good for a start. I got about 14 hours in right now. But there's stuff missing from the beta that they're starting to implement in. They did have to completely rework the game. They built it in a new engine, and so that's why some of this stuff is missing. And they do plan on implementing a lot of this. They have been listening to players so far, which is nice, and making changes, making small updates. And the game's probably being updated every few days. I feel like I have a new patch every so often, so pretty regularly. And they are listening, and they are changing stuff, which is nice. That's wonderful to have a company that's listening. But yeah, right now it's a 6.5, but if some of these things aren't addressed and the grindiness is still there, and like the gym problem where you can get stuck because you haven't leveled up enough, eventually it's like, my score would go down if things like that continue to stay the same. Let's see. In other news, we're getting a animated TV show of Minecraft on Netflix. We're also getting a movie, I guess, a live-action movie of Minecraft, which that'll be interesting. And then we're also getting an adult cartoon of Tomb Raider. That'll be a TV show. And then we're also getting a live-action of Tomb Raider as well. I mentioned that a few weeks back. And so I think the success of, like, the Mario movie, Five Nights at Freddy's, which is a huge hit that made so much money compared to what they spent, the Fallout TV show, the Last of Us TV show, we also have the Pandora movie, I think, coming out this month or next month. And so the movie industry is starting to see that games are making money because people want to go see them. And while not all of them are making a ton of money, a lot of them are becoming successful. And so I think we'll continue to see more of this for the rest of the decade. And that kind of worries me because I want the movie studios to stay over there, okay? Because I don't really like movies the way they are right now, for the most part. Regardless of political whatever, they just they don't have the same cinematics. They don't have the same skill level of a lot of these directors and people that cast. And there's a lot of agendas there, unfortunately. You can see it in their movies, and I think Marvel and Star Wars are great examples of that. A lot of us really liked Star Wars, and Star Wars lately has just been like, what are they doing? And a lot of stuff too with like Marvel, like the first 11 or 12 years was really good. Really enjoyed it, and it's just been going downhill ever since. And every once in a while we get something like Loki, and everything else is kind of mid or just sucks. And so I don't want these people to get into the gaming industry and make it worse. That's probably my biggest worry. But again, it's not up to me. I'm just a consumer. I just get to vote with my money, and so do the rest of us. So remember that, folks. Last piece is we're going to go over June games for this month. So Octopath Traveler 2 already came out. That was on the 5th. Still Wakes the Deep. That's on the 18th. I'm going to show that here on the channel for the next Off the Cuff. I'm pretty excited about that. It looks good. A small little indie game. Shadow of the Erd Tree is on the 21st. We're going to be showing that here on the channel. Also, for those of you that are some really old school puzzle guys, we have the Riven Remaster, which is the 25th. If you don't know what that is, it's a huge puzzle series that started in '89, and it's been running for quite some time, and I've played almost all of them. But yeah, Riven Remaster would be so flippin' sweet. And I'm actually thinking would there be any interest at all to actually see some puzzle games play through, some of the older puzzle games, like the Myst series. I can get all of those on Steam. I can stream those on my laptop, and if there's interest, I'll stream those. Otherwise, I'll just play them for myself. But let me know in the comments or whisper whatever, and yeah, let me know that. Also, too, we're getting Luigi's Mansion 2 HD on the 27th. And then, of course, Destiny 2, The Final Shape is out already. That was on the 4th. So if you guys played Destiny 2, if you tried Octopath Traveler, are there any games you're excited for this month or this year? Let me know in the comments. You can always like and sub. That always helps, and that is free to you. It doesn't take very long. That really helps support the channel. But also remember to share the content if you're enjoying it. That's going to help me too. I think since I don't necessarily censor myself, like YouTube would, I think I get put in the doghouse sometimes for like a week or a couple of weeks, and the algos just hate me. But hey, I'm here to be genuine and honest in my channel, and I'm here to be myself. I can't be anybody else. And if that's something you enjoy or appreciate, go ahead and like and sub, all that jazz. And yeah, I do appreciate you guys too. It's just been cool to see the channel grow and just interact with you with streaming or comments, or even playing with some of you guys has been fun. And yeah, hopefully you guys are doing okay. Be safe out there with the tornadoes or whatever else is going on in the world. And don't forget to like and sub on YouTube at Gaming Garbage 22. Also over at Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee. And don't forget our Discord server, not just to chat and mingle, but just to find others to play with, regardless of game, regardless of platform. And I will see you folks on the next one.